So you want to help people and you also want to make money. Well, let's focus on helping more people and we'll start making more money. Because the agent who tells me, hey, it ain't about the money for me, I don't need to make a whole bunch of money. Well, guess what? I think that's the wrong way to look at things.
Right.
Because the more money you make, the more people you can help. You don't have to use all the money that you make. That doesn't mean that you don't need to make a whole bunch of money. I want you to make a whole bunch of money.
Right.
Use what you need and either provide to charity or create organizations or pour into other people, help other businesses get started, help other real estate agents, whatever it is, with the rest of that money.
I hope newbie agents, veteran agents, you picked what Mike was putting down. He walked through his systems. He walked through how he got into this business.
Yeah.
He walked through some of the ways that he continues to pour into other agents, because we're not supposed to keep this information bottled up. We are blessed to be a blessing, and how that directly correlates into making more money so that you can have more impact. What's going on, everybody? This is your brother, your uncle, your boy, Marvin, here with the Equity Podcast. And my guest today is the Florida GOAT. That's the best way I can put it. I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit about Mr. Mike Collier here, but I'm gonna give him the opportunity to walk through his MO, his background and whatnot. But Mike is one of my social media buddies. He's one of the people, he don't know he one of my good friends in my head, but we have met through social media, and we are also part of the greatest brokerage this side of the Mason-Dixie, the eXp Realty. And this podcast is dedicated to real estate professionals, those that are tied to the community and those that are interested in getting into the community. So every single guest that I bring on the podcast, there's something about them that I already know, but you're going to find out how high of a caliber they operate on, whether it's just a personality thing, an income thing, an educational thing. And Mr. Mike is a combination of all three, but he brings something very unique to the table that we'll walk through in this podcast. But great guy all around. He runs the Mike Collier home team down in Florida. Mr. Mike, how are you today?
I'm fantastic, man, and thank you for that introduction. I'm excited to be here because I've seen your work. I've heard some of the conversations, and I love how you just kind of masterfully craft these conversations that anybody who's listening it just kind of allows them to be a fly on the wall. Yeah. So I'm excited to be a part of it.
Oh man, I'm super humble, man, and I believe that when you lead with value without expectation, your tribe will eventually find you, and you are, again, unofficially part of my tribe. You're my homeboy in my head. But Mr. Mike, tell the good people a little bit about yourself, what got you into real estate, what aspect of real estate you're a part of, and then we'll walk through the special thing about you that folks need to know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, again, I appreciate you having me on. What's up, everybody? It's the Mike Collier. I am down here in sunny Orlando, Florida, but originally born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, A-town down.
Let's go.
And, I was there all my life. I'm a Grady baby, the whole thing, old Atlanta. But then I ended up moving down to Orlando in 2004 for the Disney College program. Nice. And so I was finishing up college at Georgia State. And I came down for a college program internship, which was going to allow me to be down here for just really 6 months and learn kind of the way that Disney does things. And you get to put an internship on your resume and then end up going out and doing some cool things in the world. Well, during that 6 months, man, I really was enamored with what Disney does and how they were doing things. And I started getting promoted, and my personality, I've never met a stranger, right? So I enjoy meeting people and just doing life with people. Right. And so they kind of saw that and my work ethic and said, hey, we'd love for you to step into management. So I ended up in management at Disney. And before I knew it, man, that 6 month internship ended up turning into a 12-year Disney career.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, my mom thought I was just going down to Orlando for 6 months, and I'm still here, man. That's 19 years later, right?
Yeah.
So she's still waiting for me to come back home. Yeah.
Sounds like it's not happening. Definitely not.
She's like, is that internship done yet? Yeah. So yeah, man. I started working in the Disney resorts. Started out checking folks in at the front desk, and then ended up being a concierge manager at one of Disney's deluxe resorts, one of the ones that faces Magic Kingdom. It's called the Contemporary Resort. And soon after that, I saw this opportunity to become what is called a Disney ambassador, and so it's a global spokesperson for the company. And
Nice.
Disney selects one or two of those per year. Now it's every other year, but it used to be per year.
Wow.
And I just saw that, and people said, "Man, you should check that out. You should really, look into that. You'd be the perfect ambassador." And so they kind of, they hyped me up enough to go to the audition. So I went, and it's a round of 3 or 4 interviews, and ultimately the last interview is with the president of the company and the executive steering committee,
Wow.
and they select 2 out of what was then 65,000 cast members
Okay.
at Walt Disney World, and I was selected as one of those ambassadors. So
Wow.
so it was fantastic, man. Got a chance to see the company at a 30,000-foot view, and really got exposed to a lot of the ways that Disney does things the way they do things.
Right.
And it sparked a really, really cool interest in me. And so from there, I ended up selling Disney Vacation Club, selling Disney's version of timeshare on board the Disney cruise ship. So I've traveled all over the world, man. I've been as far west as Alaska and as far east as St. Petersburg, Russia,
Wow.
and pretty much everywhere in between. I've been to Turkey, Spain, France, Italy. I've been into a lot of cool places, and made a lot of good money along the way. And in 2016, I left the company only because while I was traveling all over the world and making great money, my daughter was born in 2014. So by the time she was 2 years old, I had decided that, you know what, it was time to
Make a
be home a
pivot.
little bit more.
Absolutely.
I had to make a hard decision. I had to decide whether it was going to be stay and travel the world and make a whole bunch of money and miss the family times, or be home and be there for the family and not miss those moments, and just know
Right.
that the money can be made again. And that's the route I took. And so I started flipping homes from there,
Okay.
and fast forward to 2019, I jumped into this side of real estate. It's been a journey.
I love it. I love it. And I find it fascinating to your point. I'm reminded of the good book where it says, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his
It's a
soul?
soul.
And so it's sounding like to me, although you were a part of the Disney experience from an outside and then an internal perspective, you began to realize that, okay, yes, the money is great, but what am I losing out of? Because it's always, life is about give or take. For everything that you get, there's usually something you got to give up for that. And so making that pivot into real estate, I would have expected, if you were leaving Disney, that you would have joined entertainment in some capacity, but
Yep.
real estate, like how exactly? Because I don't want to skate over when you said flipping homes. I don't want to skate over that, or
Yeah.
the ultimately getting licensed. But what brought you, other than the upside and the money? I'm sure that
Yeah.
was a motivating factor. But what got you exactly into real estate?
Interestingly enough, yeah, that's a great question. So interestingly enough, I started getting interested in it before I had even left Atlanta.
Mm,
One of my best friends, who is actually my sponsor at EXP, who
okay.
actually invited me and told me about EXP. He had started flipping homes and started
Okay.
buying rental properties, and while I was just kind of getting into it and learning a little bit more about it, they were actually doing the thing.
Right.
And I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, as most
Of
real
course.
estate
Of course.
entrepreneurs do.
Yeah.
And I started realizing, you know what, this was cool. This was something that I would want to do. I remember before I had selected to go down to the uh, Orlando to the Disney internship, I remember reading the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and after I read it, man, I was hyped. I mean,
Yeah.
most people, when you finish that book, you close that last page, you're like, yo, I'm about to make it in
Right.
real estate, right?
Right. Right.
And so I remember coming downstairs to my parents. I was at their, living at the house, and I come downstairs and I said, I know what I'm gonna do with the rest of my life. And they said, you know what you're gonna do with the rest of your life? What you gonna do? I said, I'm going into real estate.
I
And bro,
love it.
their smile kind of turned to a frown, and they were
Wow.
like, that's what you came to tell us? Like,
Yeah.
real estate doesn't always go up. The value of real estate doesn't always go up, and blah, 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 right?
Right.
And that was a nice lesson, right? It was a nice lesson. There's a lot of lessons in that, but so many
Right.
times we get excited about a dream and we go share it with other people who don't see the same dream because it
Absolutely.
wasn't their dream to begin with, and all of a
Right.
sudden, you start second guessing, is this right? Is this not? But
Right.
that book had planted a seed in me, And, what I also learned is that had I gotten into real estate then, well, one, I wouldn't have had the experiences that I did have. And so I thank God for those.
Right.
However, that same buddy, that same best friend that I have,
Right.
they're no longer just flipping homes. They're buying portfolios of properties, hundreds of properties at a time. They're buying apartment
Wow.
complexes and
Nice.
syndicating and working with large investment funds to take down properties. They're in development now. They're developing properties and communities up in Atlanta, up and around the Atlanta area now.
Wow.
So it's just goes to show, like, when you can take hold of something and focus on it, man, the sky truly can be the limit. It's just a matter of
Absolutely.
sticking.
Absolutely. And I think, stick to itiveness, I think for a lot of us, especially growing up, and we're in the age now of entrepreneurism, hustle culture, building something that's going to outlast you. I think it's a great time. It's a great time to get involved in real estate in some capacity. We have a very similar track of that got us into this career, Mike, and I think that it's powerful that you had the clarity at a very early stage, because it sounds like we're around the same age,
Yeah.
and so having that clarity, oftentimes you're right, when we share it with people, and I don't want to say that we share it with the wrong people, but we
No,
share it at the wrong time, right? Because sometimes you got to show them better than you can tell them, as we say
that's
here in
right.
the South. And
That's right.
so for me, I find that having a trusted individual that it hopefully is a significant other, but if you don't have that, it could be a mentor or someone that's doing the thing that you hope to do, and you share that plan with them. 8 times out of 10, they will lay the blueprint out, because usually people that are successful, they want to pour into other people, whether it's for karma purposes or sowing a seed and just being a blessing to somebody else. But man, I find so often that when I'm in the right kind of room or the right kind of forums, I was on Bigger Pockets for quite a bit before becoming licensed. And Bigger Pockets, if you don't know Bigger Pockets, y'all listening and watching, that is the number one real estate investor resource website. They have a YouTube channel. I'll link their information in the show notes of this podcast. But engaging and just opening your mind into the possibilities. The book Rich Dad Poor Dad is definitely the gateway drug for
That's it.
90
The
something
one.
percent of real estate investors. And I'll link that book too in the show notes. But the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, for those that don't know, it's really not a book about real estate. It talks about, and it's a gentleman by the name of Robert Kiyosaki that talks about his rich dad and his poor dad, which there's still information out there where if he really did have a rich dad, he doesn't really say for certain, but it talks about how if you want to build wealth, you have to have the mindset of an entrepreneur. And so for you, Mike, I have to assume that you realize that there was upside from a monetary standpoint in a career in real estate being licensed, but you also essentially could set your life on your terms.
That's
So
right.
how exactly, when you first got into, because you got licensed in 2019? Okay.
I actually got licensed in 2000. In 2017, I got my license. Mickey Mouse paid for my real estate license
Okay.
because I was selling. Because I was selling. That's a unique part of my story too, right?
Right.
Because I was selling Disney's timeshare, I had to be licensed in order to sell it because it's considered deeded real
Oh,
estate. So
yeah.
in order for me to make my commissions, I had to have a real estate license. So it was transferable by the time I was done with it. I
Love
just
it.
switched. Yeah.
Thanks, Mickey.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us about, when you first got into being full-time real estate agent at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you run the Mike Collier home team. So walk us through how you started. Did you start out on someone else's team? You started out as a solo agent, and then ultimately, how did you build your team? Because he has nationwide agents, and we'll talk
Yeah.
about how you're able to do that with EXP. But how did you actually start your career once you became a part of this particular?
Yeah. Yeah, great question, man. So I started in 2019 on this side of general real estate. Between 2016 to 2019, I was pretty much flipping homes.
Yeah.
I was flipping single family homes, flipping mobile homes. I got into mobile home investing,
Nice.
Yeah, that was really dope. And I started doing some wholesaling. I had taken a lot of the money that I'd saved up and actually began doing hard money lending to investors who were flipping their own homes. So,
Wow.
so I became the bank for a little while.
Nice.
And yeah, man, there was a period in there where I kind of stepped away from real estate because I got into a business venture. And this is, this isn't a direct answer to your question, but this is a little bit of that journey.
Right.
Just so people know it ain't all sweet, right? In 2017, I partnered with a business partner who ended up being a wolf in sheep's clothing kind of clothing company.
Okay.
And so long story short, with that situation, I had a business partner who stole $125,000 from me
Oh, wow.
out of my account, and it broke my spirit. It broke a lot of things. Broke the bank account,
Yeah.
and so I found myself having to kind of figure it out from there. I didn't know if I was going to have to take a job at Publix or what.
Wow.
But it wasn't above that wasn't beneath me though, because I was going to have to do whatever it took. By this point,
Right.
it was my wife and my daughter,
Right.
and so in 2018, I began doing some wholesaling
Okay.
and wholesaling properties, working with some friends of mine, but it just wasn't the right environment. It was very kind of a toxic environment. I say very, very Wolf of Wall Street-ish. If you haven't
Yeah.
seen Wall Street, that's another one that you got to see
Right.
for your viewers and listeners out there. And so it was in 2019 that I said, you know what, I think general real estate is the right side for me. And so I came over to this side. And my very first year in selling homes, I sold 9 homes.
Okay.
And for most real estate agents out there who get their licenses, Marvin, I mean,
Right.
the national average for home sales is 4 to 5 homes. That's what the average agent sells nationally,
Right.
4 or 5 homes a year. And so for me to sell 9 homes, it was like, oh man, you're doing it.
Yeah.
Well, I did that in my first 9 months. The problem was I sold 0 homes for the next 5 months. And for the next 5 months, the same bills were still coming in.
Yeah.
The mortgage didn't change. Car payments didn't change. Everything else was still remaining the same. Expenses felt like they were getting bigger,
Right.
opposed to getting smaller. And so, it got to a point where in February of 2020, I was sitting in front of my wife and I were sitting in front of a bankruptcy attorney.
Wow. And this
And
was during the pandemic, as I assume, based on the year
this
as
is
well.
this is February 2020. So this is before
Okay.
pandemic. We
Okay.
knew nothing about the panoramic. And all of a sudden, we're sitting in front of this bankruptcy attorney, and we pay him to at least start the file. And my wife says, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to get ourselves out of it? What's next? She was working,
Okay.
but what her income couldn't take care of it all that we had going on. And so
Right.
I said, I'm just going to grind. I'm gonna hustle. Like you said, hustle culture, right? That's what I know. I'm just gonna go get it from the mud. I got to do what I got to do.
Right.
And she said, what does that mean? To be honest with you, man, I didn't know what that meant. I just knew I just knew I needed to work
Right.
and do it expeditiously, right?
Right.
And so I said, I'm gonna start doing open houses.
Nice.
And she said, okay. She said, well, I said, I'm gonna do them I'm gonna do as many open houses as I possibly can every single weekend. I'm gonna be gone, so you won't see me. And this is me explaining it to her. You won't see me, and you won't see me on the weekends. And you got to remember, the reason I left Disney. The reason I left was because I wanted to have that family time. I didn't want to miss
Right.
those moments. And here I am, full circle now, missing those moments in this entrepreneurship that I chose. Right. So now I don't have the money and I don't have the family time at the same time. So what do you do?
Right.
And then in March 2020, as you know, my big golden plan to do open houses was shattered by the fact that the pandemic came in.
Pandemic. Yeah.
And so just when I thought I had a plan, I no longer had a plan.
Yep.
And but I live in Florida. And so as many of you guys know, Florida said, pandemic what? Coronavirus, right?
Right.
And so while I was able to do open houses, there were a lot of agents who were just scared to do open houses, and some sellers were taking the house off the market. They didn't know what to do. And I was that agent that was still advising other agents. I was still advising potential clients and other sellers. I was doing I didn't have any listings. So I started doing open houses for other listing agents who were scared to do them.
Right.
And before you knew it, man, within about 4 or 5 months, I'd done enough open houses where I'd gotten enough clients and ended up selling. I ended up making about $40,000 in the next 5 months.
Wow.
And I saw the glory. I was able to call the bankruptcy attorney and said, I'll no longer need your services. I appreciate everything.
Wow.
And, as I say, God and hard work pulled me out of bankruptcy, and I actually didn't have to end up going through with it. And that same year, I ended up making $200,000.
Wow.
Right? So we went from bankruptcy to being a capping agent, making 100% of my commission.
Right.
And then the very next year, Icon.
Now explain to folks that don't know, what is capping and what is Icon. These are terms, guys and girls listening, specific to the brokerage we're a part of, EXP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's important for everybody to understand. I'm glad you brought that up. I think it's important for every agent or aspiring agent, to understand what a cap is, because without a cap, honestly, you're just you're leaving a lot of money on the table. Let's put it that way. Right. So at EXP, the way it works with us, at least, is that everybody starts in an 80-20 split. You keep 80% of your money, the brokerage keeps 20% of the money. Right. And once you've paid the brokerage enough of those 20% to equal $16,000, then you no longer pay the brokerage any of that money. Right. So you make a $10,000 commission check, that $10,000 comes to you. Right? We're not splitting that 80-20 anymore. And that resets every year, right? So you get that opportunity to be 100% agent every single year. But the benefit of having that split is manyfold. But one of them is that you get a lot of that's what the company is able to use to pay for training and support and systems and education. And I mean, there's hours. I mean, over 60 hours of training, per week, just in our virtual office. There's events, there's all this, there's a lot that you get with that. And so, so then we cap, right? But then once you go beyond that, once you sell 20 to 25 homes beyond that cap, then you hit what we call the icon status. And that's one thing that, was a blessing, because once that next year, when I went on to hit icon, that means not only did I cap, but I had a really good year, and I sold, more than 20 homes beyond that cap. And the company ended up saying, that cap that you gave us, that $16,000 that you paid up to this point, right, we're actually going to give that back to you. And they give it back to us in the form of publicly traded NASDAQ stock, right? So stock in EXPI, right, which, if you get at this current recording, right, if you get $16,000 worth of stock, we're talking is a lot of stock. Right. I think that's 160 shares.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah. Somewhere around 160 shares. We're trading around $10, $11 per share. So that's a lot, because if it only goes up to $20, right, and this is a speculation that it will go. It would if it stays the same. Right. But what's really cool is you have that. And, if you look into stock, or if you know anything about S&P 500, anything about NASDAQ, the history of stocks, it's just that it goes up over time typically. Correct. Strong companies go up over time.
Are you a real estate agent looking to jumpstart your career? Join our online agent network and gain access to the support and resources you need to succeed. One of the most effective ways to attract clients in this industry is through social media. And I can tell you, in my entire time as a real estate professional, I have not knocked on one door, and yet I've still generated several $1 million worth of sales per year. And our team is here to help you do the same thing. Click the link in today's show notes today, or visit IamTheTribe.com to learn more about this amazing opportunity. Now back to the show.
And so I'm hedging my bets against that.
And I think it's important to note that if you were anywhere else, all you would have gotten is a pat on the back. So
you get a trophy.
And a trophy, correct. So you being given an appreciating asset, where anywhere else you would have only just gotten a piece of plastic, usually, or glass. That's something that is pretty powerful, because for one, and this podcast is called the Equity Podcast for a very strategic reason. But you get ownership in the company that you're a part of. So that's one cool thing that I haven't seen any brokerage now that's not copying the model in some other weird way that's doing it. But you know, when you're the first to market with a value proposition that appeals to agents, where at any other brokerage that won't get any shine on this podcast, you're given what is it called? Profit share. It's something. Yes, profit share. So if the company has profits, then you'll get a piece of those profits if it has profits. But we all know as business owners, especially those that are very tax savvy business owners as real estate professionals, the goal is not to pay taxes and to lower your declared income, to lower your taxable value. So they can play a lot of trickery with the books to basically keep agents from making money that they may have been promised to at other brokerages out there. But here at EXP, and this is, you know, this podcast is not an EXP sanctions podcast or anything. We're just both agents there, and we've seen the power of providing value not only to our buyer and seller clients, but providing value to other agents that like the way we operate our business and normally would pay for our time, either as a coach or as a mentor or things of that nature. But if they simply made the decision to move their practice over here to EXP and ask us to sponsor them, which we'll walk through in a moment on this podcast, it's a mutually beneficial situation, but it keeps things clean because there's no money that's exchanged in the process.
Right.
It's only value. So to your point, Mike, you are a solo agent or you run a team?
Yeah. Well, so I do run a team now, but
Okay.
I'm still very much in production. I still run. So I'm still rolling, right? I'm still selling homes. And majority of my sales comes from my sphere.
Nice.
You know, and so even, you know, when I hit Icon, you know, I wasn't buying leads. I wasn't on a leads team. I wasn't, you know, I was getting it from the community that I was building, you know.
Love it.
And what was really cool about that is these are people who know me, like me, and trust me. And so, you know, you brought up in the very beginning that like we're social media bros, right? Like,
Right.
to me, that's what social media is about. It's not only just about connecting with others, but it truly is about cultivating a relationship with many people, right?
Absolutely.
It's digital door knocking. You
Absolutely.
know, it's meeting friends and it's networking, but it's just social networking, digital networking. And so you get to meet a lot of people who get to know you all at the same time.
Right.
And like you said, you mentioned it earlier, you know, either they rock with you or you don't. I always like to say your vibe attracts your tribe.
Absolutely.
So the people who hear your voice and hear your story and it resonates with them and they see themselves as real estate entrepreneurs who want to be partnered with you, Marvin, then they'll do that, you know,
Right.
or maybe they're not ready to kind of make a move because to them it's just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to upset anybody, right? Now I really do love my broker, right? Then you know they may. I've had it many times where agents say, well, I'm not ready, but I have an agent right now who actually this is her situation. She's at a broker. She's not ready to make a move just yet, only because she's tied into a lot of listings and all that stuff right now.
Right.
But she does want her daughter to make the move and her daughter's
Okay.
friend to make the move. So she's introducing me to them so we can have a conversation. And then, you know, once she handles what she needs to handle, she'll be coming as well. But you talked about equity, and I think it's really important. This is just kind of a side note too.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool? Are you an iPhone user?
I am.
Yeah. See, I'm an Android guy.
Oh,
Right.
sorry for you.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. Exactly. I know.
That's
We were
good.
doing good up until then, right?
That's good.
So wouldn't it be cool though? How many iPhones would you say how many Apple products would you say that you've owned over the last, let's just say 10 years?
Too much. About 10 to 15 Apple products for sure.
Right. 10, 15. I think that's probably about right.
Right.
You know, between the AirPods and everything else, right?
Absolutely.
So what if every time you bought like an Apple product or used an Apple product, like, or even convince somebody else to get the new iPhone,
right,
or get the AirPods, right?
right?
What if you got Apple stock every time you made a transaction with them? Like, that would be pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
I mean, hey, that's Apple stock, right? And that's one of the things that I love about what we have going on. So as we talk about equity, again, not being a commercial for it, but I think it's very important for people to have, listen, eat the fruit and spit out the seeds.
Right.
And so take what you will and spit out the rest. And if this ain't for you, it ain't for you. But I love the idea that we get at this platform, at this EXP platform, we're now able to sell homes, which I would do at any other brokerage. I mean, it's just what we do, right? That's what a real estate agent typically does, is sell homes, right? Hopefully you sell a whole bunch of them. And most real estate agents want to sell more and more every single year.
Right.
What's really cool that this company has done, though, is that every single time we sell a home, we actually get to purchase stock.
Right.
Like we're given stock every time we purchase a home, or every time we sell a home. And the more transactions you do each year, the more stock you get, plus partnering with other agents. And so as I started looking at this, I started saying, man, there's an opportunity for me to take my knowledge and my work ethic and help other agents grow.
Right.
There's a lot of agents, like we said, that are selling an average of 4 or 5 homes or less.
Right.
A lot of agents who come into this game thinking that it's kind of easy, and everybody has their own struggle. Some people don't want to pick up the phone. Some people don't want to do open houses. Others love doing door knocking, and some love cold calling, whatever, right? Everybody has their own style. But to me, the purpose of an agent being on a team, or the true calling for the team leader, I should say, is really to help agents learn how to build a business.
Absolutely.
I tell my team all the time, my job is not for me to just pour leads on top of you and tell you to just go figure it out. There are some teams that way. They just pour a whole bunch of leads onto an agent. Why? Because most agents feel like the only thing they need is what? Leads. Give me leads and give me support, and I'll do the rest. How does that work when you're ready to actually spread your own wings and no longer be on a team because you want to start building your own brand? Well,
that's a good question.
If you were raised with a handicap and you try to go out and create it on your own, most likely you'll end up on another team or right back on the same team.
Absolutely.
And so I truly am focused on showing my team, like, here's how you get leads, right? Here are the options that we have. Here's how you have these conversations. So we do a lot of role playing. We do a lot of, I was able to not have to go through bankruptcy because of my hard work and ethic in going into open houses. So I'm a huge proponent of open houses. I mean, as many as you possibly can do.
Absolutely.
Right? Hottest lead you can get. So I teach now a lot of open house mastery. I have a class called Open House Mastery that I teach, among other things, but I teach a lot of social media as well, teaching people how to build communities. Even now I'm teaching my team how I'm doing with my past clients. My current and past clients and referral partners are all in a private Facebook group that I pour love into. Wow. And so now I've created my own Collier home team community. And so all of them get automatically plugged into that. And, I have Talk About It Tuesdays. I have What's Up Wednesdays. I have Thirsty Thursdays, where I highlight different bars around the state.
This is content that you create for your team?
Content that I create.
Love it.
Yeah. For the Facebook group, private Facebook group.
Love it.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of ways to get it, but that's what I teach, teach them how to build the business.
And I think that's important, because in most other situations, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, if you join a traditional team structure, and again, this isn't a plug for EXP, if you're happy with your brokerage and your brokerage gives you everything that you need in your career, perfectly fine. I came from another very popular brokerage before joining, and the amount, first of all, the amount of referral business that I've gotten just by being connected to this ecosystem means not only have I built, or do I have the ability to build a client that knows, likes, and trusts me, but with other agents, if other agents know, like, and trust you, Mike, I'm sure if you have gotten a call from an agent in California whose client is relocating to Florida because they don't want to deal with state taxes anymore, it's a retirement state, things of that nature, you're going to be the first person they call, because even though they've never met you, they know you, they like you, and they trust that you're going to be able to deliver the value that their client is needing. So that's the power of community, and it gives you the ability, because there are a lot of people out there, they want to be the Mike Collier of their community. They saw you, there's something about you that resonated with them, or maybe something about you that they'd like to build up in themselves. For one, Mike's energy is infectious, ladies and gentlemen listening. He will command a room, and I want to talk later on in this podcast about the regional rally and just some of the other leadership opportunities that I saw Mike really operate at a high level. But being able to get that access, especially if you're new, is key, because the failure rate in this business is extremely high. To your point about the average agent getting 4 deals, if you think about that, if it didn't necessarily say at what price point. So if you get 4 deals and each house is $100,000, that's not gonna. You might as well go work. You might as well go work at Publix, as you mentioned, or somewhere else, because you're gonna make more money in a traditional 9 to 5 space. So essentially, you are taking a chance or betting on your abilities, your God-given abilities. When you step out into entrepreneurism, real estate is one of the most tried and true ways to do it, because for one, you only need a high school diploma to get a real estate license. You don't need an MBA. You don't need a PhD. If you know how to build relationships with people, you can succeed in real estate. So give folks some game here, Mike, on what a new agent, especially in this current environment that we're in, which is it's up and down right now, depending on what state you're in. But give a person just newly licensed, give them a game plan of what they should be doing in the next 30 to 60 days as a real estate professional.
Okay, and they already have their license.
They just got their license, correct?
Just got your license. All right. So first thing that you need to do, obviously, you're going to need to plug into a brokerage.
Right.
You have to, right? In order to sell, you remember you're not the one getting the commission check. It's actually the broker who gets the commission check, and the broker pays you a percentage of that commission, right? So you're representing the broker. And so most brokerages are the same. They've got 4 walls, and they've got a door. They've got people going in and out of them. They have desks and the internet. And many of them have classes. Some are known for the training that they do.
Right.
It's some of the things. So here's what I'll tell you: have a lot of conversations.
Right.
Have a lot of conversations. Because what you're going to be trying to do is find your squad. You want to make sure that you are with people who are going to be supportive of you, not just as a real estate agent, but also as a person. There's going to be times where real estate is banging for you. You may be out selling. Most agents say, "Man, what's your goal?" You ask a brand new agent, "What's your goal? How much you want to make this year?" 9 out of 10 of them are going to tell you they want to make $100,000 a year.
Yeah, that is the magic number, I've noticed.
It's the number, right? Why? Because everybody wants to get to 6 figures, right? Everybody wants to get to 6 figures. And so, and I get it, especially if you're not doing currently in your 9 to 5, you're just like, man, I can see, maybe you've bought a house before and you've been on the receiving end of some horrible service that an agent put down for you. And you're just like, man, I could have done that. Right. And you look at their commission and you're like, man, I definitely could have done that. Yeah. Right.
That's why I got my license.
That's why you got yours?
That's why I got my license. It was a horrible realtor experience.
It happens a lot. Right. It happens a lot. But here's the thing. Many times that agent didn't even know better. Right. Many of the things that you may have received from that agent or did not receive from that agent just wasn't taught to that agent. Right. Now they could have been hard-headed and being taught and not learned, but at the same time, a lot of these brokerages treat agents just like another number. Right. And so after about the first year, these agents start to kind of feel like another number, because if you're not on somebody's team, then you're shut out of these other team meetings. Right. There is no true collaboration. You can find another new agent that's in your office and say, hey, can we start doing some open houses together? Can we start role playing together? But what is a new agent going to teach you? What are you going to learn in your role playing with an agent who hasn't done it yet?
Blind leading the blind.
Yeah, blind leading the blind, right? And so finding someone who cares about your well-being and does not see you as a number, but has a vested interest in your success, that is what you're looking for. And so I think one of the questions that you have to ask as you are interviewing brokerages or interviewing sponsors is, what is your vested interest in my success? How does it matter to you whether or not I do well? Not just, maybe there's just some internal sense of gratification that that person gets, and that's cool. But that doesn't translate to you having a successful career. That just translates to them feeling good about selecting you to partner with.
Right.
But when you're a brand new agent, then you need to know that you're going to have support, and you're going to have access to training, and you're going to have access to leads and referrals,
Right.
and a high level of training. And I'd say this: global partnerships. Just recently, I just received a referral from a guy out in India, because, as you know, EXP is global and we're also in India.
Right.
And he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I see that you work in the Central Florida area. I have a friend who has some property out there and considering listing, and I would love for you to sit down and talk with her."
Wow.
And I said, "Oh, well, thanks for your consideration." Start getting some information about the property. Come to find out, it's two different properties. One is 1.9 million, and the other one is 2.9 million.
Whoa. Whoa.
Right? Why? Well, because I am vocal on social,
Right.
and he sees that I'm out there. He sees that I represent this area of Central Florida,
Right.
and we're also at the same brokerage. And obviously, he can't service them from India, so he reaches out to me. And why is he able to do that? Because we're in, as of this recording, 24 different countries,
Right.
87,000 agents across the world, and so referrals. I would tell you I probably get anywhere from about 4 or 5 referrals per month from
Wow.
EXP agents who are reaching out saying, "Hey, I got somebody moving down to Florida."
I love it. And that's, it's one of those things I realize with any other, brokers. Let's just use where I came from before joining. I was with Berkshire,
Mm.
which in Georgia, one of the big ones are KW. And the more conversations I had with these different places, because you should do your due diligence. You're right, Mike, where you hang your license could make or break you from a career standpoint long term. And what I realized, the more conversations I was having with the traditional brick and mortar companies, is that I was the commodity, I was the investment. Me paying my monthly whatever fees was to that brick and mortar, the franchise fee, things of that nature, I was that office's long-term retirement plan,
Mm.
because as long as they keep a certain number of agents under their headcount, that's a guaranteed stream of income. And of course, as those agents produce, most of these places are taking somewhere in the neighborhood of 60-40, maybe 70-30. The excuse I was given at the particular one when I was telling them I was making a departure to join EXP was, well, we can't give you 80-20 because we are a traditional brokerage. I don't know what kind of double speak that was. I'd never heard that. I was like, well, what does that have to do? That has nothing to do with me. This place is going to give me more of the hard-earned money that I'm fighting for. So, who you align with is absolutely key. And there's so many heavy hitters, within our global brokers that, for me, to get that kind of access, you'd have to pay these individuals directly.
Oh,
And I think that's the powerful thing about just aligning with the right place. So I want to make a pivot here.
okay.
But if you want to book a conversation with either Mike or myself, I'll put our information below. That way you can learn more about, why it was that we joined where we joined. But what are some of the challenges that you're noticing in the market right now for buyers and sellers, and how are you helping them navigate, the world that we're in right now?
Man, that's great. That's a great question. And I think so. For me, I'm being very intentional
Right.
about 3 things. It's community, content creation, and consistency.
Love it.
Right. So those are my 3 C's: community, content creation, and consistency. And so I've told you about community.
Right.
You know, one of the things that I talked about was my private Facebook group that I have. Now, I know some of y'all, you looking at Facebook, you listening to this, you say, man, ain't nothing but old folks that
Oh Lordy.
Facebook. I ain't even got a Facebook page. Well, maybe you should get a Facebook page, right? Instagram doesn't have communities like that. TikTok don't have communities like what I'm talking
No,
about.
no.
And I will also tell you, when you do the research, you'll see that the majority of high income earners are on LinkedIn and Facebook, not
Absolutely.
necessarily the others. Not to say that they're not out there, but what I'm telling you is the way that I'm being intentional about using it is I'm now speaking to the people who already know, like, and trust me. And one of the first rules in business that is that it's much cheaper to retain a customer than it is to go out and gain new customers. And so if you
That's
can
it.
find a way of retaining customers, what does that mean? That means simply loving on the people that already are doing business with you, having some kind of loyalty rewards program where, client appreciation event. I'm having my very first one on April 11th, right?
Nice.
And it's called Sunsets and Gratitude. So I'm doing it on a rooftop in this really cool historic downtown area.
Nice.
And it's going to be a rooftop garden, and we're it's going to be on a Tuesday, so it's Taco Tuesday and an open bar, right? And I'm bringing my sponsors in, and any vendors who have ever referred me business, any past clients that I have, or even people that I'm working with right now, or even people who have just reached out to me and said, hey, when I do business with you, I want to do business with you. Then I'm inviting them out and just loving on them. And so that's community. And keeping them informed of what's going on.
Absolutely.
The other thing is content creation. One of the reasons, there's a stat, and I don't know, it might be the stat may even be, the percentage may be even higher now, but a couple of years ago, there was a stat that says 71% of consumers vowed that they would not do another real estate transaction with the same agent that they did their last one with.
Wow. Why was that?
71%.
Okay.
And do you know what the number one reason that was?
Why is that?
Number one reason that they would not do business with the same real estate agent again was due to lack of communication. Right? Lack of communication. So what does that mean that you need to be communicating? Well, that means that you need to be communicating what's going on in the market.
Right.
And I'm not just talking about the national market. Everybody knows, oh, interest rates are high and prices are high and blah, blah, blah. Or
Right.
are you a parrot that's just kind of chirping the same thing that the news is already saying?
Right.
Are you taking a deeper dive and understanding your local market, as well as kind of the psychosis of a homeowner and the psychosis of a first-time home buyer or somebody who has to sell their home in order to buy a home, right?
Right.
Like, are you working through that and having these conversations? Like I say, I always like to tell my customers is that, like, for me, I want you to understand, I'm not a real estate agent. I'm a real estate advisor.
Right.
Very, very similar to the way that you have a financial advisor, right? And you have a legal advisor. I'm your real estate advisor, right? And so you need me in your life to help you to make great decisions in regards to real estate, but I can also plug you in and help you with a lot of these other things as well. So I do a lot of that through my social media. So that's the content creation. And then consistency. None of this stuff even matters if you're not being consistent with it.
Absolutely.
So whether you're doing content creation or whether you're creating community, you don't have a community without consistent communication, right? And you don't have a content strategy. You're not doing social media, right? Social media is doing you. If if you're not consistent, why? Because the algorithm is simply going to reward those who are staying consistent. And if you have great content, and something that is edutainment, right? Educational, but also entertaining.
Absolutely.
Then people will continue to come back to it, and the algorithm will push it out to even more people. And all of a sudden you begin to attract business, as opposed to, having that commission breath and constantly trying to chase business.
And I think it's important to that point that we realize that anything that's free means that you are the product. So you mentioned Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and having a presence in all of those places. And if these platforms, and then we'll walk through YouTube in a moment if you are on YouTube, these platforms are giving you carte blanche, as long as you don't say anything extreme or political or whatever harmful to other consumers. They are giving you carte blanche. Not only are they giving you the potential to reach millions of other users on that platform if you create content that is shareable, it educates, and it entertains, but their job is to keep eyeballs on their respective platform as long as possible. Specifically, let's speak specifically to TikTok and Instagram. The CEO of TikTok is in trouble right now
Oh,
because
man.
there's so many eyeballs on that platform that there's some, security concerns. But the point is that their job is to continue to push out user generated content, which is what we all provide as users of each respective platform. They will, if you have something that is really helpful or educating or both to people, you're going to get the biggest spotlight. So that leads to your point about consistency. When you start out in a thing, you're terrible at it. When I first started boxing, for example, I do a lot of boxing personally from a fitness standpoint. My jab was terrible. My hook was terrible. I was getting winded. I didn't know how to breathe. I didn't know to keep my head down, things of that nature. But over time, I'm no Mike Tyson by any stretch of the imagination,
Yeah.
but
Something like it though.
you're probably not gonna want to see me if you break into my house. As I'll
Let's go.
leave it at that. But I got better over time. I'm able to breathe better. I'm able to control my movements, things of that nature, hand-eye coordination, and all of that. That directly correlates to success on social media. The more you do it, the more you will push through your insecurities on camera, because we all have them. The more you will be confident, because I've noticed that the more research you do on a thing without over analyzing yourself or the topic subject matter you're presenting, the better you're going to get at it. Because at the end of the day, none of us here are experts, but our job is to just give a little bit of information more than the watcher or the viewer knew going into it, so they can take it and do whatever they do with their information. But that's all our job is to be. We're not necessarily supposed to be the Ryan Serhant or whatever. That is in and of itself. Has said many a times that his whole thing is just showing up consistently with content that resonates with people, and that's how he became the number one agent.
Right.
He hadn't been doing this for 20 years. He's been doing this for probably as long as we have been, but he went into it with a certain game plan. He's consistent. I'm just using him as an example,
Yeah.
and you can duplicate that in your own business and be of that caliber in Louisiana. It's just you just got to show up and
The
provide.
other thing about that too, and I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
A lot of agents say, "Man, I just lack the confidence." And maybe you're listening to this and you say, "Man, I just really don't have like I just need to build that confidence."
Right.
Why aren't you making calls? Because I don't really have the confidence. How come you're not doing video? I just try to get more. I'm trying to get more courageous. I'm just not like that. I just don't have that confidence. But
Right.
when you look at the confidence cycle, that you only get more confident after the positive result that comes from the action being taken,
Right.
right? And so, like a baby who's learning how to walk, the baby gets up and stumbles and tries to walk,
Right.
boom, falls down. But the first thing the baby realizes that, you know what, if I'm going to get somewhere fast, I need to actually stand up to do it.
Right.
And the baby starts taking a couple of steps and then boom, falls down. But the baby says, well, shoot, if I can take 1 or 2 steps, I
Right.
might be able to get 3 or 4. Right. And somewhere along the line, we lose that. We get, quote unquote, realistic about
Wow.
life. And we lose the tenacity, to the stick to itiveness, as you said, right?
Right.
And so, but I think in order to be a consummate entrepreneur, it's really interesting how much of our childhood plays into it. We have to have this whimsical idea of what reality truly is. We have to
Right.
constantly stay creative. You actually have to draw outside of the lines. Believe it or
Absolutely.
not, you need to color outside of the lines, and you need to stay consistent. You have to be willing to, and you have to still be playful, right?
Right.
And I think if we did more of that, we'd get a lot further. And the ones you see doing that have that whimsical, playful nature about themselves. You look at the Elon Musk, who just kind of thinks of things. He's just like, yeah, yeah, we can do it.
Right.
We can put a car in space. What? A car in space, and blaring rock and roll.
Right.
That's the mind of a child
Right.
who who at the same time is spending or is sending spaceships, personal spacecraft into space, right?
Absolutely.
Someone who says, you know what, I think we can take this big old brick and that we call a mobile phone, and
Right.
put it into a handheld device that's more like a computer.
Right.
And it reminds me of Penny from Inspector Gadget. Remember, she
Wow.
used a tablet that would change.
I remember.
Bro,
Yep.
that was an iPad.
This is true. This is
That
true.
was an iPad,
Before
right?
its time, absolutely.
Before its time, but Steve Jobs says, you know what, I think we can do that. Right. And Steve Jobs does it. And now all of a
Right.
sudden, we got these iPhone products. So, the best entrepreneurs are those who are able to stay creative, stay consistent, and build a
Yeah.
community around those products and services that they created. And I think, you look at any of these big Fortune 100 companies, that's exactly what they've done. Disney, Apple, Google, all of them.
And I think it takes innovation. You have to be innovative, and as a real estate agent, you can be innovative. The way that I run my team here, for example, I'm a team lead here in Atlanta, and I run my team in a very generous way from a compensation standpoint and a lead sharing standpoint. To your point, a lot of times agents are like, yeah, I need leads. But my thing is, is the lead a good lead first and foremost? Are you ready for that lead? And ultimately, will you be able to close on that lead? Because the lead can go one of two ways. You can turn that lead from a cold lead to a warm or hot lead, or you can turn that lead from a cold lead to a dead lead by either upsetting them when when the wrong agent reaches out to them, not having enough script practice to know how to overcome objections, things of that nature. For me, I got 20 years in sales, so I've heard no's my entire career, and I've learned how to masterfully navigate all of those no's and turn them into not yets and eventually yeses. But that's an art form that you have to be a natural in it in a lot of ways, but you can also teach folks, right? So
Yeah.
I think that it's important to be innovative, to learn. Specifically for me, the content that I'm creating for my future buyer and seller clients is about informing them in what's going on. But when there was the bank closure, for example, with
Yep.
SVB Bank, kind of translating that without using a lot of our industry jargon and things of that nature, because there are people that are not, I don't watch the news personally. My information, how I find out what's going on in the world outside of real estate is in large part through YouTube and social media. So if I can get ahead of that in some type way, shape, form, or fashion and become someone else's news source who, again, they may not be ready to buy or sell, but
Yeah.
when they have a family member that says, hey, do you know somebody, in Atlanta? Yeah, go check out Soul by Marvin. I watch him all the time, blah, blah, blah. Go check out Mike Collier. I watch him all the time. That is what we are able to become, little mini NBC, ABC,
That's right.
Foxes within our ecosystem. And you don't have to have a lot of followers to make that impact. I
You
got to
don't.
fit. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, I teach a social media boot camp.
Yeah,
And one of the things that I teach, I ask the agents, how many of you all have a YouTube channel?
right,
And, it might be 50 agents in the room and
right,
maybe 3 or 4 of them raise their hand. And I say, okay, how many of you do not have a YouTube channel? And the rest of the room raises their hand. Some people
right,
don't know, right?
right, right,
And they say, well, I have one, but I hadn't done anything with it. And some people
right,
just know I don't have one. I
right,
say, okay, keep your hands up. How many of you all, with your hands up, actually have a Gmail account? And all of them keep their hands up.
right,
Everybody has a Gmail account. Okay,
right.
cool. So did you know that if you have a Gmail account, you actually have a YouTube channel? What?
Yep.
Yeah. Who owns YouTube? Google.
Google. Yep.
And so if you have a Gmail account, obviously you have a Google account, which means that you get their suite of products, which also includes YouTube.
Yep.
The thing is, you actually have a YouTube channel. The problem is you have no programming.
Wow.
You have no TV programs on there.
Wow.
My daughter, she watches TV. She'll watch TV, but bro, she'd be much happier. My 8-year-old daughter is much happier with a phone or an iPad in her hand watching YouTube
Yeah.
over and over again. That is their source of TV. A
Right.
lot of people cut cable, and as long as they have internet, they just watch YouTube,
Right.
right? And so that is TV programming these days. And
Mm.
so you imagine turning on channel 2, turning on ABC, and nothing's on.
Right.
How often would you go back to that channel?
Right.
Probably wouldn't, right? If it's inconsistent programming, you saw this one thing that you liked that one time, that show was amazing, and then you turn back to it the next day or the next week or the next
Right.
month, nothing's
Right.
still on there except
Right.
that last same episode.
Right.
That's how a lot of people treat their social media. A lot of people treat their YouTube channel, and so I've now gotten onto YouTube. You mentioned this earlier, but
Nice.
I've gotten on YouTube, and I think I've seen especially in the real estate side of things, I've seen the power and the impact of YouTube and being able to share data and information consistently. I use mine to focus on real estate, but
Okay.
also not just not just real estate in the traditional way of like, oh, hey, there's this 3 bedroom, 2 bath that you can
Right.
buy. Come on here and check it out, man.
Nice.
Um, I use it, and I'm just starting it, but I'm using it to highlight properties, neighborhoods, communities,
Nice.
but also lifestyle. And so I want people to know about the mom and pop shops. I want to use it to help support small businesses,
Right.
help people understand what that Central Florida lifestyle is all about. If you're thinking about moving to Orlando, here's some really
Right.
cool places and things to do. And you know, uh, yeah, I was just recently on a Disney cruise with my family. We went on a
Nice.
night cruise and it was fantastic. But we drove down to Miami to get onto the ship. Well, guess what? That ain't nothing but a 3 hour drive,
Right.
right? Living in Orlando, I can drive to Miami in 3 hours. I can drive to the beach in an hour. I can drive
Right.
up. So I drive to Atlanta in 6 hours. So it's a really cool place to be able to operate. And I want to highlight that because there's a lot of people moving here anyway, and they're
Right.
going to do their research whether I'm present or not. And
Right.
so I just have to continually show up and be consistent in the information that I'm giving.
Right.
And hopefully they find some education in it, but they also find some entertainment in it.
Well, one thing I noticed, one video that you did that I liked, and it was to create counter, uh, where you're giving why you should not live here
Yeah.
in Florida. I thought that was really dope because most real estate content, for those of you watching, usually is done by a real estate agent telling you why you need to come live in their city, obviously because we hope that you will use us in order to do that. But you very rarely see videos done by professionals. Now, it's a million and one videos here of why you shouldn't live in Atlanta, for example, that are not done by real estate agents. And the perspective that they give is usually from a lack of preparation. That's the overarching theme when I watch a lot of those. But these are also videos that I know my clients or potential clients that are relocating, because I deal with mainly relocation clients.
Mhm.
They're watching this as well. So I love, Mike, how you got ahead of that and created a video that said why you wouldn't want to live here. And you spoke to a lot of the honest things about the heat,
Yeah.
hurricanes, things of that nature. So what prompted that? And I think it's a great Jedi mind trick. Just from a sales guy, I knew what that was.
Yeah.
But you were answering critiques of your city uh, in a I love the way you spun it. So what made you
Yeah.
consider doing that when that's kind of dangerous to do?
Well, to be honest, there's, as you know, there's pros and cons to everything.
Hmm.
And if you're only telling me the pros, then people who are truly considering the service or the product that you're selling,
Right.
they're like, all right, so what's the downside? Like, you've
Right.
given me all the great stuff. What's the downside?
Right.
You know? And so again, they're gonna go get the information whether you give it to them or not.
Right.
I want to be the source of that information. Again, being a true real estate advisor, I'd be doing people a disservice if I didn't give both sides of that thing. And
Right.
so and these are also, again, most of my clients are also relocating clients. Most of
Right.
my clients, I'd say about 85 to 90% of the people that I help buy homes
Right.
are coming in from other states. And
Okay.
so many times they'll ask me, hey, what's the downside? What am I not thinking about? What do you think about this area? What's going on in Florida that I should know about?
Right.
And and one of the course, the ones that always comes up is, man, these hurricanes.
Right.
Aren't you worried about the hurricanes, Mike? And I help them to understand that like Orlando is literally in central Florida. It's centrally located in the state.
Right.
So we don't get the same winds and hurricane force, rain and stuff that the coastal cities get. And
Right.
so, but I can still drive to the beach in an hour. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Right.
Um, people ask about the alligators, people ask about the weather. And
Right.
so I just kind of take what I've already been getting and then try to give them, the real about it.
Right.
It's hot in Florida. You guys know. I mean, you know
Right.
what it is.
Right.
Yesterday, I hopped in the car. We went to a festival, and I hopped in the car afterwards, and my temperature gauge in my car for the outside was reading 100 degrees.
Wow.
You know? And with the humidity, it felt hotter than that.
Right. I'm from
But
Texas,
that's what
so
it
I
is.
definitely know. Yeah, 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 for sure. And
Yeah.
and I think they appreciate that. I really think that it's an opportunity when you take the bullets out of the gun, if you will.
Mhm.
It gives you the ability to give context, because context is everything.
Yeah.
When you're hearing a critique about a certain place and things of that nature, for example, again, Atlanta, there's certain nuances. You've been being a Grady baby and being here from Atlanta, which I just learned that right now in
Yeah.
this podcast. You can probably speak to some of the concerns that folks may have about
Yeah.
Atlanta. And so I kind of walk through how every community, especially in a metropolitan city like Atlanta, they have crime just like a Houston or a Dallas or a Los Angeles or New York. But that's another key point of having a real estate professional, because although we cannot speak to crime statistics, for example, in a certain area, we're legally not able to do that. You're able to at least get enough information on certain parts of town that you may ask us about, to do your own due diligence and find out,
Right.
as far as school systems, crime rate, things of that nature, things that are important for anybody that's looking at relocating to a brand new area. And so again, getting ahead of it, I think, does a lot better, for one, to show you as the expert versus just a salesperson. You're actually a relationship guy, because you can in the future say, hey, remember we talked about how you might see an alligator in your backyard depending on where you
Yeah.
live. That's what
Yeah.
it is here. But but alligator
Well,
nuggets are delicious. Something like that. I've had some before being vegan. But I think that lends itself to your credibility. That's what I was
yeah.
looking for. You got to be a credible source of information. And if you're withholding material information because you don't want to look bad, I think you're doing your clients a disservice, because when they find out, they're going to say, why didn't Marvin tell me? Why didn't Mike tell me
Yeah.
this very material piece of information that I should have known?
And I'll say this too,
Mhm.
for a lot of these agents, it's very important. If you've been considering doing something like this, man, I got to start that YouTube channel. And,
Right.
I've been talking about doing it, and I've been talking about, also be careful, right? You mentioned something before, and I know this, but, you mentioned like crime stats.
Right.
you know, we don't talk about crime in certain neighborhoods and all this kind of stuff, and you
Right.
can get yourself into some severely hot water,
Right.
boiling water, if you
Yeah.
start talking about certain things. And so when you're talking about it, if somebody actually asked me the other day, what do you think about this area? They literally were texting me because they want me to go show them some properties,
Right.
and his mom is buying them from a different state, and so his mom was like, hey, I just want to make sure that it's safe for my baby, right?
Right.
And so he
Right.
said, well, Mike, what do you think about this? I said, well, I'll tell you what, you tell me what you think about it. Drive around the neighborhood before we actually go schedule some time, because that's what, I don't want you wasting my time, and I don't want to waste your time.
Right.
So I'd much rather you do your own due diligence, pull
Right.
up any websites that you need for crime stats. If you feel comfortable with that, and
Right.
you drive around the neighborhood and you're like, you know what, these are my people, by all means, let's go make it happen.
Right.
And I don't care if we're talking about the nicest neighborhoods or what's perceived as the worst neighborhoods, because
Right.
guess what? The worst here in Orlando ain't even as close to some of the worst that I've seen in Atlanta. Right.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
depending on where you're coming from, you might look at it and say, you know what, this is actually fine for me. Because
Right.
what I do know is that most people who live in communities truly want community. They want
Yeah.
good neighbors. They want a place that they can own. They
Right.
want to buy a home and actually begin earning equity. They want
Right.
freedom, right? And they want the same things that everybody in every neighborhood wants. So who am I to say that this ain't an area for you? It
Right.
may very well be for you. Let's start with home ownership. And
Right.
I want to empower you to do that. And so
Absolutely.
here's some information for you. And that's what I give in the channel. And then I say, if there's anything else that you want to know, by all means ask, and then I'll point you to where you can get that information from.
I love that. I love that. And landing the plane here, Mike, I think that, again, that speaks to why it's great to have a presence online, either social media or YouTube, because they are two separate animals, depending on how you decide to work it into your business. But if you're looking for, and I want you to kind of give buyers and sellers some closing words, and then I want you to give some closing words of encouragement to other real estate professionals in this space. But I really believe that if you're looking for an idea of what kind of content to create, if you're a real estate professional watching this, your buyers and sellers are looking up the best places to X in your city, the best
Right.
places to eat in your city. So creating content where you take one weekend and you go to one part of town, another part of town, another part of town, another part of town, home tours, restaurants, yoga studios. I don't know. I'm just saying, food, entertainment, and then something off the beaten path. That's several pieces of content in one weekend that you've created. And then that way, for me, a client will reach out if I did a video that I don't even remember 6 months ago in a part of Atlanta, like McDonough, for example, which is on the southernmost part of Atlanta. I've gotten calls. I don't even live in that area, but I featured that area. I featured homes in that area, restaurants, things of that nature. The video got 40 views on my YouTube channel. It's not this YouTube channel. It's another YouTube channel I have called Beautiful Georgia Homes, where all I do is home tours. You don't even see my face, but I'm in various part of town. So now they may say, well, I saw your video on this community, but I heard XYZ about this community. What are your thoughts about that? Well, of course, we cannot speak to anything that steers us to race, religion, or anything like that. We cannot have those conversations, but you at least can see what is there and see if it's worth the trip down, because you've watched Mike's videos, you've watched my videos on that particular area. And to your point, you realize that, you know what, a lot of these comments, these might just be people that were unhappy with the way things, they like the way the things used to be, especially here in the South, if you get my meaning. And they don't like all of this change that's going about. And so that's why they said something negative on some random Yelp or blog or whatever, but you would not have known that unless you came down on your own or you saw the content that Mike or myself created, showing, wow, there's a lot to do in this particular part of town. So that's the power of YouTube doing the work for you, for us as real estate professionals, and providing value to your next buyer, seller, client, who will thank you for taking that time to drive to that particular part of town, because they never saw any content that spoke to them the way that we're able to articulate ourselves to show that it is a good opportunity for a real estate purchase. So what are some, what that's just a kudos to you for seeing the importance of creating content that's evergreen and will continue to help you build your business. But what are some parting words that you would give to buyers and sellers and then real estate agents?
Buyers and sellers. So yeah, if you're, aspiring homeowner, if you're looking to buy a house, I would tell you, and you've probably heard this phraseology from real estate agents, or at least around the internet, buy the home and date the rate, right?
Yes.
What does that mean? That just simply means, over time, American real estate is like gold, right? It's going to go, the value of it will go up over time. And we're not talking about flipping houses. I'm not talking about this. Is it going to, if can you buy it now and flip it and sell it within the next 2 years, is it going to be higher? I'm talking about home ownership, a place where you want to live, or if you're looking to raise a family, whatever it is, right? Over time, home values have proven to go up. You won't find a time in history where they've gone down over an extended period of time, much like a stock. Right? 10, 20 years is what we're looking at. And so let's just say, if you're buying a house now, there's a very high likelihood that the value of it will go up over time. Now, if you're locking in a higher than interest rate than you were hoping, there's opportunities, right? We have 2-1 buy downs. There's a lot of programs, and you want to get with a real estate advisor that you're working with who can tell you how to get you even a temporary relief on your interest rate, so you can have lower monthly payments over the next couple of years than you would if you did not take advantage of the programs. And the program is absolutely free, right? We show you how to do it, what you need to do, and we can help you make it so that you don't have to spend any money out of pocket to get it done. And but if you don't have an advisor who can show you how to do those types of things, or if you're a real estate agent listening to this going, what is he talking about? Then you need to reach out to Marvin or myself so we can help you understand what that looks like. But I would tell you, so that's on the home buying side. On the home selling side, there are a lot of timid homeowners who are worried that they just kind of missed it. Over these last 2 years, obviously the market went crazy, and in a way, you kind of did. You kind of did miss it. If you're trying to sell your house today for what you probably could have sold it for this time last year, you're probably going to be sitting on the market for a little bit longer. However, it doesn't mean that it's not still a good time to buy or to sell. It doesn't mean that it's not a good time to sell, because it really truly depends on your own intention, what you have, what your personal goals are for your family. And so, um, if you are looking to sell and relocate, um, we dive into why do you actually even need to sell?
Right.
Is it the right time for you to sell? Are you just looking to reduce some of your monthly payment? Oh, the monthly payment's a little too high. I'm not making as much as I did for my job. Well, what if you put
Right.
an ADU in the backyard? What if you put an
Mm,
ADU in the backyard? You start renting that. And now we help you to build a property. We get you to hook you up with a contractor who can put a $12,000 little shed type of property in the back. You can
right.
rent that out as an apartment, right? And now you're renting that out for $800 a month. And guess what? Your monthly payment just went down by $800.
Yep.
You know, so there's opportunities where you don't even have to sell. But with a good advisor, we're going to come up with different opportunities for you. And guess what? And some people say, well, gosh, Mike, why don't you shoot yourself in the foot if you tell a seller not to sell? Listen, they're going to appreciate it if I can help
Yeah.
them versus trying to help me.
Right.
And
Right.
I think that's powerful for real estate agents. I hope, my advice to real estate agents as we close out really is to learn from those those couple examples that I just gave.
Right.
Uh, are you trying to serve you, or are you truly trying to serve them? Because the more
Mm,
people that you are able to serve, the more money you will make. I say it like this to my agents. I say, listen, if you're partnering with me, I want you to understand two things. The more people you help, the more money you will make. But the cool thing is, the more money you make, the more people you can help.
oh,
This
whoa.
beautiful circle that happens, right? And so
Right.
everybody wants to make more money. But when you talk to most real estate agents, they say they got into the game because of what? They want to help more people.
Right.
So you want to help people, and you also want to make money. Well, let's focus on helping more people, and we'll start making more money. Because the agent who tells me, hey, it ain't about the money for me, I don't need to make a whole bunch of money. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
I think that's the wrong way to look at things.
Right.
Because the more money you make, the more people you can help. You don't have to use all the money that you make. That
Right.
doesn't mean that you don't need to make a whole bunch of money. I want you to make a
Right.
whole bunch of money.
Right.
Use what you need, and either provide to charity or create organizations or pour into other people, help other businesses get started, help other real estate agents, whatever it is, with
Yeah.
the rest of that money. The
Invest
more
in your
money
own
you
real
make.
estate.
Come on, own more real estate, right? Like, create more opportunities for more people with the more money that you have. Don't tell me that you just don't want to make more money, because what that tells me is that you want to be lazy. You just don't want to do the work.
Mm.
You don't want to do the work it takes to make the money that you want to really make,
Right, right.
right?
And that you're comfortable being mediocre. That's another. You're saying that without saying that. I just want to stay mediocre. I make six figures, great. If I make eight figures, but you're right. If you already go into it with that mindset, statistically speaking, you're gonna skew further away from the six figures than closer towards it.
No
But if you
question.
if you go into it saying you want to make $1 million and you make 300,000, 400,000, well, they say if you aim for the moon and you hit the stars, you still
Right?
you still won. So
Right. Yeah, Les Brown, shoot for the moon, because even
yeah,
if you miss, you land among the stars.
I love it. I love it. Well, Mike, I want you to let folks know, how they can get in touch with you. But I always try to ask my guests to share, one interesting thing about themselves that you're into, or that that you do outside of real estate, that folks would never guess about
Yeah.
yourself.
Well, I used to actually play. I used to play golf, and I used to enjoy playing golf. And as I always tell my wife said, "You used to play golf all the time before we got married. What happened?" I said, "We got married." She's like, "Well, don't blame it on me." But
That's
so
funny.
I used to play golf, but I don't play as much as I do now. So
Right.
it's my wife Courtney and my kids Brooklyn and Bryson now,
Nice.
and so that's been fun. So, but something that I actually really do enjoy is I you know what, I enjoy karaoke, man. I'm a
Wow.
I'm a karaoke guy.
Okay. Okay.
I have a
So
go, I have a go-to. My absolute go-to
what is
is
it?
Earth, Wind, and Fire, September.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Oh
That's a
man.
good one. That's a good one.
Oh man. Like, cue the fireworks. It's going down.
That's funny. My go-to karaoke is what was it? I Want to Dance by Whitney Houston. I want to feel the heat from some. Yeah, it's on the cruise ships. We're always
Okay,
doing the karaoke's on the cruise ships. So
come
that's hilarious.
on. Well,
Well,
we might have to make that happen.
that's hilarious. Well, I'm gonna hold you to it, brother. I will. But Mike, this has been an amazing, amazing conversation, man. I mean, you've dropped so many gems in this conversation that I hope newbie agents, veteran agents, you picked up what Mike was putting down. He walked through his systems. He walked through how he got into this business.
Yeah.
He walked through some of the ways that he continues to pour into other agents because we're not supposed to keep this information bottled up. We are blessed to be a blessing, and how that directly correlates into making more money so that you can have more impact. So, Mike, how can folks get in touch with you?
Yeah, very simply, you can go to www.themikecollier.com.
Yes.
You can find me at the Mike Collier on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. Right, go follow my YouTube channel. But start on Instagram. If you're not on Instagram, you can find me on Facebook as well. But I like those platforms. Follow me on and subscribe to my channel on YouTube. And as I always tell agents, especially if you're following me, by all means, if you have ideas, share them with me. But if at any point you see something that I do that you like, R&D it.
Yep.
You know what that stands for?
Rip off and duplicate. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Rip off and duplicate, right? So take it, make it your own and create it. And I'm always happy to see that. And I hope you do it even better than I do.
I love it. Love it. And if you're looking to work with Mike either to buy or sell, we'll put his information below. If you are interested in buying and selling in the Central Florida area and you want to book a call with him, I am more than happy to hop on a Zoom and speak to Mike, speak to his ability to service clients, not just what you see here on camera. Let us know if you're interested in joining, EXP, or you want to have a conversation about how we've been able to scale and grow our businesses. Again, reach out to Mike or myself. We're happy to have that conversation. No obligation to do anything. We just want to give the information. So Mike, thank you so much again for being a part of the show. This has been super impactful. And until the next podcast, I am your gracious host, Marvin, with the Equity Podcast, signing off, and want to wish you guys a blessed day. Thanks again, Mike.
Thank you.